Hi everyone, welcome back to the EV Puzzle. This channel is mostly about my experience of moving from an ICE car to an electric car, and that's what this video is about today, the experience, and I want to share that with you. After a month of owning the Kona Electric, I did share what the experience was like 1 month in and how that felt, so I want to progress from that now. It's 5 months in now. I bought the car in early September, it's now early February, so that's a good 5 months. I've done around 5,100 miles in total, so it's a good time. It's a good time to give you an update what it's like with the Kona Electric, what it's like with an EV. I bought the Kona in September, at the end of the summer, and experienced some really good weather and enjoyed summer driving. But now it's midwinter now in the UK, so we've experienced -3, -4, lots of rain, dark mornings, dark nights, that sort of thing. So I've got a fair handle now for what it's like with an EV, with my Kona Electric, during the winter as well. So I'll share all of that with you. But where do we start? Well, we have to start by looking back at the video that I did before and what my experience was and how that may have changed. Firstly, my driving experience. One of the first things I said before was that I really enjoyed driving the Kona Electric, and it's the main reason I chose the Kona over any other car, any other EV, and that was the driving experience. I've continued to enjoy driving the Kona even in the winter. Now, initially, yes, I did notice a little bit of grabbiness on the brakes and the traction control kicking in, and as you accelerate, the traction control kicking in a bit as you accelerate hard. But I must confess, during the winter and now 5 months in, I don't really notice it at all. I don't really wheel spin at all unless I'm, say, at a set of, I was going to say traffic lights burning something off, but that's not quite true. If I'm at a junction or a roundabout and I want to pull out quick for a gap, then sometimes I accelerate just a little bit too hard and traction control does kick in. But other than that, I actually don't get it. So I think I'm getting used to the throttle more. I think I'm getting used to the more digital feel of the EV, where when you first move from an ICE car to an electric car, it does feel more on and off, digital, 1 and 0. Acceleration, it's either put your foot flat down or have your foot completely off. And you notice that with regen, to start with, you might have a slightly jerky ride in that you're accelerating and then you're braking under regen as your foot comes off the throttle. But the more you have an EV, the more you get used to it, the more you are smoother on the throttle and smoother in using the car. And basically I'm finding now that I don't notice any torque steer. I know people talk about torque steer in the Kona, but I don't notice it. I don't really get any wheel spin. I don't have any of those issues whatsoever that people initially have complained about with the Kona Electric, with those terrible Nexon tyres that are both noisier than they should be and giving you a little less grip than perhaps we'd want. But even with those Nexons, I don't really have an issue now, and I would say that's the difference from 1 month to 5 months in, that I've got used to the car and I'm now driving it more smoothly, and I don't have any of those issues that I first had when I was probably putting my foot on the throttle too much. Being a digital throttle, it is, I wouldn't say harder to modulate correctly, but there's a different feel to it. You can feel the cable perhaps on the old ICE cars, and there is a more granular feel to it, and you've got the audible feedback about the engine revving more, so you can adjust according to the sound as well as the feel. In an electric car, you've got a different feel and no sound. So it does take a little bit of change to get used to that. 5 months in, I'm not an expert at it by any means, but I've noticed a difference now. I wheel spin less, I see traction control kicking in less, and I am definitely smoother on regen and smoother on acceleration as well. Cost of ownership, here's a big one to share with you. So in the 5 months, what does it actually cost me? Well, I can't actually do 5 months. I've got to go a little bit further back to 4,485 miles that I'd completed, because that's when I installed solar panels. And it'd be unfair to show you what the cost was, including me having solar and getting cheaper charging from home. So I've given an example from the moment I had solar installed. I'd completed 4,485 miles, and that had cost me £56. £56 for nearly 5,000 miles of driving. So 4,485 miles, that's about 75 gallons of diesel in my old car, doing about 60 miles to the gallon on average. So multiply that by £6 a gallon, which is a fair price that I would have paid in that time. Well, that's £450 of diesel that I haven't spent, and I've spent £56 on electricity instead. So that's almost £400 saving in 5 months. So that's almost getting close to £100 a month saving. I'm very, very happy with those numbers, very happy. Now that I've added solar panels, how's that going to change for me? Well, it means when I do charge, instead of charging overnight, then I can charge during the day and I can maximise the effect I'm getting from solar. I'm almost getting economy 7 rates during the day as a result of having solar. Can I charge the car solely on solar? Well, definitely not during the winter. I can charge all day and maybe get 40, 50, 60 miles of range from solar during the winter on a really good day. On a not so good day, I might get 1 or 2 miles. It's not very good at all. But the point is, if I want to get more miles on the car, I can just change the Zappi charger, ramp it up to 7.2 kilowatts and charge as per normal, whether I'm getting solar or not. So it's not like I'm restricted, but I can maximise the sunshine and maximise the benefit by having the Zappi charger, which adjusts the amount of energy that I'm pulling from the grid according to what I require and what I want, as to how much I want to charge the car or how much I want to be economical and charge just from solar. So I'm really enjoying having solar and the Zappi, and I'm really enjoying having reduced costs of electricity going into the car. That is a good experience of having the 3. I'm very, very pleased that I've done that. And I'll do a separate video covering why I went solar and how that's benefited me. Other costs. Have there been any other costs with the Kona Electric and going EV so far in 5,000 miles? No, not a single cost. Nothing's gone wrong. Yeah, I've bought a few premium products for the car to keep it clean, but there really have been no other costs whatsoever. So very, very good news from 5 months in. One of the things to say about those miles and the cost that I've had so far, I have been charging out at some public chargers, mainly to do videos for you guys. So in using those chargers, I've been gaining free electricity because all of the chargers I've used so far have been free. I haven't paid for a single charge while out. I just haven't had to. That is changing now, and that's one of the things I can comment on at 5 months in. The chargers that I were using, the Instavolt chargers, the Ingenie charger, and now a Swaco charger, all of those have now started to be paid for, where I have extracted free charging in the past. So these free deals, they're disappearing. More new chargers are coming online, and some of them are free initially, so there are free chargers available here and there, but mostly we should get used to having to pay for it while out. Now, I don't mind that. I don't mind having to pay. I don't mind paying when we need to charge, but now, instead of having the choice, shall I charge for free out or shall I come home and charge, basically I'll be charging at home because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to charge at home than it is on a public charger, so why would I do it unless I have to? And when they were free, it's a nice opportunity to take advantage of and have a free charge, if it was convenient. So on the subject of electricity and tariffs and costs and that sort of thing, what have I done? Well, in January, I've changed over from E.ON to Bulb, and I've been very happy with that. 1, it's a greener supplier of energy, I believe, so I'm very happy with that. 2, I found Bulb almost the cheapest. It wasn't the cheapest from the standing daily rate, but it was the cheapest on the kilowatt hours. Not economy 7, because I didn't have an economy 7 meter, so with Bulb I would have had to pay for a meter to be installed, and that just wouldn't have been right from a cost point of view. It wouldn't have worked out very well. So I'm very happy with Bulb, but I'm not on economy 7, and I'll cover why I'm not in a moment. I'm paying 13.5 pence per kilowatt hour, which I'm not overly happy because I was paying 12.5 pence on E.ON previously, but the problem is there aren't any more deals available, so not at those sort of rates. So the only way of getting cheaper electricity to charge my car would be on an economy 7 system or a flexible system from someone like Octopus, and I didn't like that because it controlled when I wanted to do the charge, which would have been more overnight. I prefer to be in control and charge when I want to, and it suits me more to charge during the day, especially now I have solar. So for me, economy 7 wouldn't have worked out because I could have used the cheaper rate overnight, but I would have been charging the car to a higher state of charge overnight in anticipation of what I might want to do the next day, and then if I did need a top-up, I'd still have to be topping up at peak rates. So my decisions as to how much charge I need the next day are made in the morning. They're not made the night before, and that's the big difference. If I had economy 7, it would dictate when I needed to make decisions about what I was going to do with my car the next day, and I don't like to be controlled. I think that's part of the reason why I don't like Economy 7, because I don't want to have to do it when somebody says. And the other thing, having solar, now that I've got it, if I had Economy 7, then I would be charging overnight at cheap electricity. Whereas now with solar, I can charge during the day for free. So if I had solar and I had Economy 7, I'm not sure the two would work as well hand in hand. So for me, with solar, it suits to have a rate where I don't have to worry about what the price is. It's a single low rate, and I subsidise that even more by making sure that I only charge when there's some sunshine. I don't charge in the middle of the night when there is no sunshine. Right, moving on from tariffs and onto public charging, what have I actually done? I've probably used 4 different kinds of public chargers now, but only on one occasion have I had to charge at a public charger because I didn't have enough charge to actually get back. All the other occasions were because I chose to, because I wanted to do the charge for a video purpose, or I was taking advantage of a free charge, or it was just convenient from where I was, or a combination of those things. Anyway, only once, and that was in the video where I went to Brighton and did 411 miles over a weekend, and I had to charge at the other end, so I used an Instavolt charger, and that worked out brilliantly. I still haven't used an Electricity charger, and I don't think I ever will, because what's the point? What's the point of me trying at Peterborough, Grantham, or wherever the chargers are that suit me, if I find it doesn't work? I don't really want to go there, try it, and find I'm another one of the people saying, oh yeah, it doesn't work on CCS, it doesn't work for the Kona. There's just no point, and there's plenty of other chargers to choose from. So for me, I'm avoiding the electric highway Electricity because it is unreliable for this type of chargers, CCS. All the others I've never had a problem with. I've used one with an RFID card now. I have ordered an RFID card for the Swaco system, and I've used that. That's nice and easy. It's just like Instavolt, but instead of tapping your charge card, you're tapping the RFID card. Now, that works just as well, I suppose, in how easy it is, but the hassle is, how many of those RFIDs would you have to have? If I'm travelling around the country or going on holiday, you'll need a different one each time, and it's still a bit of a pain, isn't it? If I want to go to Scotland on holiday and tour around, I'll have to get a Charge Place Scotland card or a CYC card, and I don't have one or use one at the moment. Or I might have to buy a subscription with Polar and use that. And if I go across to Ireland, then I have to apply for something else. And I really dislike this. I dislike the thought of having to do different things and anticipate that I might not be able to charge easily. Although when I called the charging network over in Ireland, they basically said, don't worry, because if you didn't have the right card, you could still call us and we would connect you and give you the charge. So you're not always stuck, and if you haven't got the right app and if you haven't got the right RFID card to swipe it, you can either do pay-as-you-go if the charger accepts that, or you can actually call them up. So the important thing that you have to have with you is a mobile phone, and you have to have a mobile signal. I hope all chargers are only installed in a position where there is a mobile signal. Range anxiety. So yeah, range anxiety. Have I had any? No, not any whatsoever. I've never been anxious at all about the range on the car. And the lowest I've been is so far 35 miles. So I think that was 12, 13, 14%, something like that. I can't even remember the percentage. But it was about 30, 35 miles. That's the lowest I've been on the car. Will I go lower? Yeah, probably. But at some point you have to realise that if you're running it down to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6%, there might be a point where instead of having those extra 5, 10, 15 miles, it suddenly goes and they're gone and you run out. And I've seen and heard that happens with other batteries. As they're degrading, as the batteries aren't performing as well, they typically run out of charge very quickly at the low end. So if you think you've got 10, 15 miles to go, or you've got 5% left on the battery, what if you haven't? So would you really want to risk it? I suppose if you're used to it in your car, and that's what you have to do because you've got a small battery, smaller range car, then you're used to doing it. But what happens on that day when it doesn't? Well, basically, you have to call out the RAC, don't you, or the AA, and you have to get the tow of shame, which, do you know, I don't want to risk it. That's the advantage of having a Kona or a E-NIRO or something with a much larger range. You don't have to risk it most of the time because you've got contingency. So although you're basically driving around with spare capacity you're never going to use, it is more comfortable to have that spare capacity, that spare range, so that you're not feeling risk of running out. If you are going to run it closer to zero, then you'll have more anxiety. as I don't run it anywhere near zero, I don't have range anxiety whatsoever. Charger anxiety though, do I have charger anxiety? I did when I first got the car in the first month because I'd never charged before. I didn't know what to expect. But now I must confess, if there's a charger there, I know I can look on ZapMap or PlugShare. PlugShare is the one I use the most. And I can see whether the charger is working or not. I can see with the comments being left whether there's a problem. So for me, I am not getting charger anxiety anymore, especially with the ones that I'm familiar with. As soon as you've charged there once or twice, you become used to it, you get used to it, you know it's going to be working because you're confident with it. It's only when you're traveling further away and you're not used to the area and you don't know what the chargers are like, you don't know how busy they're going to be, whether they're blocked, whether they're broken, those sort of things. So you do worry a little bit, but I'm finding the more I own the car, the less I'm worrying about it. Because I've never been blocked, I've never been completely iced, and I've never failed to get a charge at any charger I've been to so far. Now, for me, I suppose I'm lucky, but also I'm actually avoiding chargers that are perhaps too busy. So for me, public charging has worked really, really well because I've only had to do it once, and the other times that I've done it for my convenience, I haven't had a single issue whatsoever. So on charging regime, basically I don't leave the car overnight on less than 20%, and typically I'll leave it around 40, 50, 60% overnight, and when I want to charge I'll top it up from that point to any more that I might need. Mostly at the 40, 50, 60%, I don't need to top it up anymore in the morning. That's plenty, so we'll pop out, do the trip we might do, 50, 100 miles, come back and re-plug in and re-top it up to the 40, 50, 60% again. I only typically go above that when it's either convenient to do that from a rapid charger that was free. I might top up to 80, 85%, or if I know I'm going to go out somewhere else, which is going to be a longer trip, like I am tomorrow. I'm off to Lincolnshire tomorrow to meet Mark from EV Life UK. We're going to travel up to Lincolnshire. That's about 100, 110 miles each way for us, so 220, maybe even up to 230 miles in total. So with a range from 100% of 240, 250 in winter conditions with the heater on, yeah, I need the car charged to 100% overnight. So I'll set the timer for charging so that it's at 100% at the time we want to leave. Not at 4 or 5 o'clock. If you had economy 7, you'd have to be at the 100% by that time to maximise your economy 7 tariff. No, I don't have to do that. The car will be at 100% at the time we want to leave. So I'm looking forward to that trip. I might put a glimpse up as well so you can see that, or I might even do a live stream on the way up. Talk to Susan and see whether she minds doing a live stream while she's in the car. We'll see what happens. Winter experience. So what's it really like? Well, I'm still doing some testing. I've got a video that I'm working on at the moment to try and describe exactly what the economy differences are and different temperature ranges and whether you've preconditioned the car, whether you're using the heaters or not, to try and understand the exact difference. But yes, I've noticed probably about a 20% drop in range and efficiency through driving in September weather times in the UK versus December, January times in the UK. So yeah, when it's wet, when it's cold, it seems to make a good difference of at least 20% is what I'm seeing, if you have the heaters on. If it's dry and cold, it's better. It's definitely worse when it's wet. I've seen that. Grip-wise, I think I've already covered that with the acceleration and the braking, etc. I'm now better at it and I don't really notice a difference, even in wet, damp conditions. Yes, I will change my tyres. I will not replace Nexen with Nexen. At some point, I'm going to put different tyres on. Some people are going for Michelin cross climates for the winter. But, you know, I'm probably not going to. I'm probably going to go with a summer tyre because I want to maximise how the car is for the majority of the time in dry weather and summer driving, which is when I drive the car the most. If it's bad conditions, typically I won't go out. The heater, how am I getting on with the heating system? The Kona's heating system is pretty good. What I've noticed is compared to an ice car, it heats up much, much faster. So if you're on a really cold day, heated steering wheel on, heated seats on, heater on, not necessarily full blast, but it warms up really, really quickly, probably half the distance and half the time at least you're really warm in the car before you would do in an ice car. So grip in the winter with the Nexen tyres, well in the UK we haven't really had any snow on the ground yet, and if there's ice on the roads I don't go out and drive, so I can't really tell you in thick bad condition what the Nexen UK tyres are like. Obviously, if I was going to go out in winter conditions, you should really have winter tyres on. That seems really clear the more you look at people in Norway and Germany and how they're driving around in snow with no issues whatsoever. Obviously, if it's winter conditions, you should have winter tyres on. And I'm being sensible. I haven't got winter tyres on, so I'm not going out in those really bad conditions because I don't want to prang the car. But I'm now smoother on the throttle, smoother on the brakes, and I haven't had a situation this winter yet where I've locked up or had a lack of grip under acceleration that I wasn't perhaps expecting. So I don't think there's an issue whatsoever with grip, even with the Nexon tyres. The big issue that I'm finding with the Nexons is probably road noise. It's not a huge issue, but on the worst surfaces, you can definitely notice that noise come through. So I would like a set of tyres on that are a bit quieter. And if that's all it takes, changing tyres to get a little bit more grip and to get a quieter driving experience, then it's not a fault with the Kona. It's just a bad decision on their point to put those Nexons on in the first place. One of the things that I noticed after the first month was basically I noticed the smell of diesel and petrol, and I became more anti-petrol and anti-diesel than I was before. It's like you notice how good it is in the electric and suddenly you want everyone else to go that way because you see it is the future, it's the way to go, and it's going to be a much better environment as soon as we get rid of those ICE cars. That's just got worse and worse for me. I'm finding I really am becoming a grumpy old man around diesels, around taxis, buses, trains, and 4x4s sat with their engines running. I really am going to have to watch how grumpy I get over it because everyone should have electric cars, and the sooner it happens, as soon as this tipping point comes and everyone starts to buy them, the better as far as I'm concerned. How's that going to work in the future? Well, my prediction is some car manufacturers are probably going to go under. And the reason for that is because when there's sufficient demand for electric cars and they're not producing enough electric cars, then they're going to have a glut of petrol and diesel cars that they can't sell, and they're not going to be able to make any money off the electric cars that people want. The only thing that they can do to combat that is to reduce the price of their diesel and petrol cars so that they appear such a bargain that some people are still going to go and buy them anyway. And if they're going to do that, they're not going to make any money on them. And I think a lot of car manufacturers aren't that well capitalised and they don't have a lot of money in the bank. So I think they're running too close to empty already. Car manufacturers have got a bit of anxiety in there already. If they're not making enough money, then they're at risk of going under and being taken over by other companies. So I think we've got that to come unless the big manufacturers get the timing right and start to reduce production of diesel and petrol cars in anticipation of the demand for electric cars. They could be facing real problems. So defrosting, your car's all iced up in the morning and you've got people out there scraping the windows and turning the engine on for 10-15 minutes, sat on the driveway burning diesel and petrol to defrost their car and warm the inside up before they go. Well, in the Kona Electric, it's taking me about a minute to 3 minutes max, depending on the settings that I use and depending on how thick the ice is before I leave. Preconditioning, yep, you can precondition the car, but the only problem with that is it does come on 30 minutes before you actually need to depart. Unless you're going to fiddle with the timers and have that preconditioning on so that you're ready to drive, say 10-15 minutes after the preconditioning comes on, it's a bit too long for my liking. I would rather sit in the car from cold and actually just experience the defrost because it just takes a minute. It's not very long at all. So for most of my driving and defrosting that I've done in the winter, I've just gone to the car, got in and defrosted there and then. I haven't used preconditioning. Value for money. One of the things I commented on in my video after 1 month experience, that I truly believed the car was worth £10,000 more than an ICE equivalent. How do I feel about it now? Yeah, I have over the last 5 months continually thought about whether I've bought the right car. And that's because it costs so much. I haven't bought a car this expensive before. And it does play on my mind, is it good value? But every time I think about it, every time I analyse it, it is. It is worth it. Because what could I buy? I could buy a Ford Focus Vignale, top of the range, gorgeous interior, lovely seats, lovely woodwork, lots of tech features, lovely to drive, all of those things. I could buy one of those, virtually brand new, for about £25,000. So, that would be in like an ex-demonstrator, I think. I think they're about £28,000 list price. But anyway, let's say £23,000, £24,000. Well, that's £10,000 saving over the Kona Electric. But I'd have an ICE car. I'd have a petrol or a diesel car. and I would then be spending that extra £1,000 a year, or maybe more, because it wouldn't be as economical as my last Fiesta. So it's probably going to be £1,200 to £1,500 a year more in fuel costs. And obviously then I'm not being good for the environment. I haven't got the experience of the electric smoothness and the quietness and the high amount of torque instantly available. I wouldn't have all of those things. So yes, I could save £10,000 and have something nice. I could have a Ford Focus or a Golf GTI or a Mercedes or a BMW. I could have all of those different things, but they wouldn't be better. Every time I've analysed it and every time I've thought about it, I've come all the way back to I'd rather have an electric car. And then if I'd rather have an electric car, the way to save money would have been to buy a second-hand one and have a second-hand Leaf. Well, I don't like Leafs. All right, well, buy a Zoe. Well, they're a bit small and a bit tinny. I don't quite like the quality of the Zoe. They are a cheaper car. Okay, well, why not an Ioniq? Well, an Ioniq is probably my second choice. I would rather have that than any other electric car if I was buying second-hand. But it's only got 120 to 150 mile range, depending on winter or summer, those sort of things. So how would I get on with that? It's every time I go round and round and round on should I bought the car, should I sell it and let it go now and have something different. It's what else would I get? And I keep coming back to there is nothing else out there better than my Kona Electric at the moment. And some people are screaming at the screen saying, E-NIRO, E-NIRO, you know, get that, it's bigger. Well, I don't want anything bigger, and I don't want something that doesn't drive as well and have such a sporty feel to it as the Kona. So the E-NIRO at the moment is not for me. And also, it's sold out. You'll have to wait longer to get one than you would if you're ordering a Kona. So for me, the Kona is the best electric car out there to buy. Apart from if you're spending a lot more money and getting an I-Pace. And yeah, an I-Pace with 170 to 220 mile range being realistic. Is that better than a Kona, even for twice the amount of money? It's a nicer car inside, it's a nicer car to look at on the driveway, but for how much charging you're going to have to do in it and how much it costs, no, it's not a better car. The difference on affordability, though, is for me, I'm talking about affordability when buying for cash. And I've got the money, so what am I going to do with the money? If you're buying a car on a lease, on finance of some description, and it's your monthly payment that's important to you, then that's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? Because you can have a really nice car for a lower amount of money, but it'll cost you more in fuel. Or you can have an EV, and you'll spend less money on fuel, but more money on the monthly amount to buy the car. Finding the sweet spot where you get a quite cheap finance deal on an electric car and you get the free fuel, well, that's going to save you a lot of money. But that's down to your motivation, isn't it? Are you buying an electric car because you want to save the planet? Are you buying an electric car because you love the driving experience of it? Are you driving an electric car because you want to save money? There are lots of different reasons why people buy electric cars. Efficiency from my Kona Electric. I was going to talk just EVs and not Kona specific things in this video, but yeah, efficiency, what am I experiencing? Probably on average over the winter, about 4 miles per kilowatt hour is the average. Susan gets a bit better than me. She gets about 4.2, 4.3, and sometimes I'm only getting 3.8, 3.9 and up to 4.1, but I think we're averaging about 4 at the moment. And in the summer, I was averaging more like 5 miles per kilowatt hour. Anyway, that leads me to the last item, and that's the desire to drive. And that's what I noticed in the first month of having the electric car, that I wasn't just driving because I had to. I wasn't just driving because I had to go somewhere. I was making up excuses for going places. I was choosing to use the car more than I had before. It is enabling me to get in the car more often because it's pleasurable and it's cheaper, and there's no reason not to. And that's what I wanted from an electric car. That's what I wanted for my retirement. I've been planning for a long time that in my retirement, I want to be free and enabled to go and do whatever I want when I want. I want to be not sat thinking, oh, I'd like to go to Derbyshire this weekend, but yeah, it cost me £150 in fuel to go and do that. So I want to avoid doing that, and I want to have the pleasure of saying, let's go to Scotland for the weekend. And that's because I can, because it's really, really cheap. So you're not restricted by cost. You can go anywhere you like, and you're not restricted. That's what I'm finding is the big thing about the Kona and about having an electric car, that you're not as restricted about where to go because you're not thinking about the cost. You're not worried about the cost whatsoever. So it's only a case of, have you got the time? Yep. let's go then. Let's get in the car and off we go. So I'm probably going to be doing a lot more miles in the car than I have been doing in my diesel Fiesta. And I'm probably going to be doing a lot more miles than if I had continued with another ICE car. So that's something to bear in mind, that you'll probably be driving more because they're a real pleasure to drive. So yeah, I find that having an electric car, having the Kona with the long range, is enabling me to want to go out and use the car a lot more than it would otherwise. So great choice. I'm really happy with the choice I've made. So there you go. That's what it's like 5 months in having an electric car, having the Kona Electric. Basically, I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing, for liking, for sharing the videos. It's great. Sorry there's been a bit of a gap with not producing videos. I haven't really got back into the swing of it since the new year. There's only been a few that I've posted. Hopefully I'll get back into it soon, and there's more videos to come soon. Take care. See you again soon. Bye for now. The best I've done is from a solid ice car. It's Mummy! Shush! Shush! Go on, off you go. Go on. The best I've done so far is with the car covered with frost and ice, is defrost it within 1 minute.